I start by cutting my tablecloth in the width that I would like my ribbon to come out while leaving it doubled over. There is no particular measurement for this part. I'm just basing this on the scale of my house, where they're going to go and how wide I want them and what I think would look good. You could cut this in thirds, you can cut it in fourths, you don't have to cut it at all. The size does not matter. That's just one example how versatile this material really is. I think there are endless possibilities. I'm making my ribbon extra long because they're gonna go around some columns that are really fat. So I know I'm gonna need a lot. That I didn't even bother measuring. I just know it's gonna take a lot to go around them, and then I will cut it later to size. But you could cut it to the size you want beforehand so you're not working with such a long, awkward piece, because it is slippery and it wants to slide off in either direction. And for me, I found a way to manage it long, so I'm going to fuse it all as one piece, very long. Here I'm just making sure that I can pull it and keep going without it getting caught up on itself or having to unfold it as I go, because I just want to be able to keep working. The materials you'll need are a towel for the bottom part just as a cushion, parchment paper, your plastic or vinyl tablecloth, and another layer of parchment paper, because you're going to be sandwiching the tablecloth between the parchment paper. So the key thing to remember is that the tablecloth never touches the iron. The end result is the same color and material of the tablecloth, but in a much thicker form. The trickiest part of this project is knowing when to remove the parchment paper. If you pull it off too soon, the tablecloth is going to stick to it and it's going to create some messy creases. As soon as the parchment paper is cool to the touch, it's okay to lift up. And if anything does get messed up or creased or wrinkled along the way, it is easy to fix. However, it just slows down the progress of whatever you're trying to make. This ribbon that I'm fusing right now is probably about 20 feet long, so I'm working in sections that are about 2 feet wide at a time. And then once I lift the paper up, I just pull it through to the next section to fuse. Once I'm done with this section of ribbon, I'm going to show how to correct some of the mistakes that happened along the way. I guess I have yet to perfect this to where I don't end up with any messy spots, but along the way there's going to be a couple mishaps or messy spots that pop up. They're very, very easy to fix. So the first issue that I would have as far as making mistakes would be these little creases or crinkles or wrinkles that would happen right here like this. And most of the time it was because the edge of my iron came off of the parchment paper and touched the vinyl, and so it kind of stuck and pulled up and then stuck to itself. So this is a super easy fix. It just needs to be refused together from both sides. I just stick it between the parchment paper again, fuse it on one side by applying the heat, wait a couple seconds for it to cool, and then flip it over to the other side to heat again. This next mess is pretty much as bad as it gets during the project. If the parchment paper is pulled up way too soon, the vinyl is still melted and it just makes a big wrinkly mess, just like this. However, this mess is still repairable, and there's actually several options to do it. So depending what the final project is would impact how much I care or how much effort I'm going to put into fixing something like this, because it could just be cut off the way it is and move on. Yes, I know in my project I'm going to have long ribbon tails that I'm going to want to have nice clean edges. I wouldn't want any wrinkles or odd looking shapes. So I would want to fix this to make sure that I don't end up with that anywhere. So in this situation, I just chose to snip off the little piece that makes my edge look jagged and then go on from there. And depending what you're doing, this isn't even really necessary. However, I wasn't sure of the lengths that I would need and where this would fall in the bows that I wanted to make. So here's another way to repair mistakes, and it's by making a little patch to cover the area that's ugly. So you can just cut a piece of vinyl that would cover the entire area, lay it over where the messy part is, put the parchment paper down, and then fuse the patch in place where you want to cover up. So here's another situation. Just say you came up short for some reason and you needed your piece to be a little longer, or you had to cut a chunk off because it was too messed up. You can always reattach the vinyl to itself to extend it. So this is how I do it. I just put the two edges together slightly overlapping and then put the parchment paper over it and apply heat to fuse them together. And if the edges come out jagged like this, again, I would just trim them down the same way that I did with the other jagged edge, just so it lines up. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line, but I could just trim it up to make it blend however I want. And there you have it. It is really that simple. Who knew that vinyl tablecloths could be so useful? In my next video, I'll be showing how I used this material to assemble the bows seen in these photos. And if you like this idea, be sure to subscribe, because down the road, I'll be sharing other projects that also use vinyl tablecloths. Thanks for watching, and feel free to post any questions in the comment section below.